7 miles below the ocean surface, in complete darkness, under pressure that would crush a car like a soda can. Something is alive. Something is moving. Something is hunting. For over a century, scientists believed the deepest parts of our ocean were lifeless deserts, too hostile for any organism to survive. They were wrong, dead wrong. What we've discovered at the bottom of the Mariana Trench is so bizarre, so alien, that it's rewriting everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. Today, I'm taking you on a journey to the most extreme environment on our planet, where creatures exist that seem ripped straight from a horror movie, where entire ecosystems thrive without sunlight, and where the rules of biology get thrown out the window. This is the story of what really lives at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. And trust me, the truth is stranger than any fiction. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button because today we're diving deep literally into one of Earth's last true frontiers. The Mariana Trench is located in the western Pacific Ocean, about 200 kilometers east of the Mariana Islands. It's a crescent-shaped scar in the ocean floor that stretches for over 2,500 kilometers, making it longer than the entire western coast of the United States. But it's not the length that makes this place remarkable, it's the depth. The deepest point, known as Challenger Deep, plunges down approximately 10,994 meters, or about 36,070 feet below sea level. To give you some perspective on just how deep that is, imagine taking Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth at 29,032 feet, and dropping it into Challenger Deep. The peak of Everest would still be more than a mile underwater. That's absolutely insane when you think about it. The trench was formed by a process called subduction, where the Pacific tectonic plate is being forced underneath the smaller Mariana plate. This collision has been happening for millions of years, creating this massive chasm in the ocean floor. Now, you might be thinking, okay, it's deep, but what makes it so extreme? Well, let me break down the conditions down there. First, there's the pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The water pressure is over 1,000 times greater than at sea level. We're talking about 15,750 pounds per square inch, or roughly 8 tons pressing down on every square inch. That's like having 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of your thumbnail. This pressure would instantly crush most submarines and kill a human in seconds. Then there's the temperature. You might think it would be freezing down there, and you'd be right. The water hovers between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius, just above freezing. But here's where it gets interesting. Near hydrothermal vents, temperatures can spike to over 400 degrees Celsius. And finally, there's the complete absence of sunlight. Below about 1,000 meters, you enter what's called the aphotic zone, where absolutely no sunlight penetrates. The Mariana Trench exists in eternal darkness, and yet, as we're about to discover, it's teeming with life. That's fewer people than have walked on the moon. This should tell you just how difficult and dangerous it is to explore this environment. The story of exploring the Mariana Trench is a tale of human curiosity pushing against seemingly impossible odds. For most of human history, we had absolutely no idea what existed in the deep ocean. Ancient sailors told stories of sea monsters and endless abysses, but these were just myths, right? Well, it turns out they weren't entirely wrong. The first hint that life could exist at extreme depths came in 1864, when a Norwegian expedition pulled up a crinoid, a type of sea creature, from depths of over 3,000 meters. Scientists at the time were shocked because the prevailing theory, proposed by the famous naturalist Edward Forbes, stated that no life could exist below about 600 meters. Forbes called this the azoic zone, literally meaning without life. His theory made sense based on what we knew at the time. Without sunlight for photosynthesis and under crushing pressure, how could anything survive? But that single crinoid changed everything. It proved Forbes wrong and opened up an entirely new frontier for exploration. The real breakthrough came with the HMS Challenger expedition from 1872 to 1876, which was actually the first proper oceanographic expedition in history. The ship traveled nearly 70,000 nautical miles, taking depth measurements and collecting samples from all over the world's oceans. During this expedition, scientists discovered over 4,000 previously unknown species, many from depths that were supposed to be lifeless. In fact, the deepest point in the Mariana Trench, Challenger Deep, is named after this very ship, but actually reaching the bottom of the trench took almost another century. The technology simply didn't exist. Submarines couldn't withstand the pressure. Equipment would implode before reaching even a fraction of the necessary depth. It wasn't until January 23, 1960, that two men, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, climbed into a specially designed submersible called the Trieste and began their descent into Challenger Deep. The journey down took nearly 5 hours. Imagine sitting in a cramped metal sphere, descending into complete darkness, hearing the hull of your vessel creak and groan under the increasing pressure, knowing that the slightest structural failure would mean instant death. At 9,000 meters down, they heard a loud crack that shook the entire vessel. An exterior window had fractured, but they continued descending. Finally, at 10,911 meters, they touched down on the seafloor, and within minutes of arriving, they saw something that would change marine biology forever. A flatfish, resembling a sole or a flounder, swimming past their viewport. They also observed what appeared to be shrimp and other small creatures. This was supposed to be impossible. The pressure, the cold, the darkness, nothing should have been able to survive down there. Yet here was visible proof that complex life could exist in Earth's most extreme environment. Picard and Walsh could only spend about 20 minutes on the bottom due to technical issues and safety concerns. But those 20 minutes proved that the deepest parts of our ocean weren't dead zones but living ecosystems. After this historic dive, it would be 52 years before another human would return to Challenger Deep. In March 2012, filmmaker James Cameron made a solo descent in the Deep-Sea Challenger submersible. Cameron spent about 3 hours exploring the bottom, filming in high definition and collecting samples. His footage revealed a barren, almost lunar landscape, but one that was definitely inhabited. Since then, advances in technology, particularly in remotely operated vehicles or ROVs and landers, have allowed us to explore the trench more frequently and thoroughly, and what we've found down there is absolutely mind. Before we talk about the specific creatures living at the bottom of the trench, we need to understand the journey down there. The ocean is divided into distinct zones, each with its own unique characteristics and inhabitants. Think of it like descending through layers of an alien world, where each level has different rules and different life forms adapted to survive there. Let's start at the surface. The epipelagic zone, also called the sunlight zone, extends from the surface down to about 200 meters. This is where you'll find most of the marine life you're familiar with: dolphins, sharks, tuna, sea turtles, and of course, the majority of the ocean's plant life. Sunlight penetrates throughout this zone, allowing photosynthesis to occur, which forms the base of most ocean food chains. The water here is relatively warm and nutrient-rich near the surface. This zone represents less than 3% of the ocean's total volume, yet it contains the vast majority of ocean life. Below that, from about 200 to 1,000 meters, you enter the mesopelagic zone, also known as the twilight zone. This is where things start to get weird. There's still some sunlight here, but it's extremely dim, not enough for photosynthesis. The temperature drops significantly, and the pressure increases dramatically. This zone is home to some bizarre creatures that we'll discuss in more detail later: bioluminescent jellyfish, viperfish with enormous teeth, and the famous giant squid. Many animals in this zone undergo daily vertical migration, rising toward the surface at night to feed and descending during the day to avoid predators. This migration involves literally billions of tons of biomass and is actually the largest migration of animals on Earth, happening every single day. Next comes the bathypelagic zone, or midnight zone, extending from 1,000 to 4,000 meters. Many animals in this zone undergo daily vertical migration, rising toward the surface at night to feed and descending during the day to avoid predators. This migration involves literally billions of tons of biomass and is actually the largest migration of animals on Earth, happening every single day. Next comes the bathypelagic zone, or midnight zone, extending from 1,000 to 4,000 meters. The landscape here, where it exists, consists of flat abyssal plains covered in sediment composed largely of the remains of microscopic organisms that have slowly drifted down from above, a process called marine snow. Life is sparse but surprisingly diverse. Bottom-dwelling fish, sea cucumbers, and various crustaceans slowly move across the seafloor, feeding on whatever organic matter settles from above. Finally, below 6,000 meters, you reach the hadopelagic zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld. This is the realm of the ocean trenches, including our focus today, the Mariana Trench. The hadopelagic zone exists only in the deepest ocean trenches around the world, representing less than 1% of the ocean's total area. Many have huge mouths and expandable stomachs to take advantage of any food they encounter, no matter how large. Some can survive for months without eating. Below 4,000 meters, you enter the abyssopelagic zone, or the abyss. The name alone tells you what early explorers thought of this region. The pressure exceeds 400 atmospheres, and the temperature can drop to just above freezing. The conditions here are beyond extreme. Pressures exceeding 1,000 atmospheres, near freezing temperatures, complete darkness, and almost no food. Until recently, scientists believed that few, if any, organisms could survive here. They couldn't have been more wrong. The hadopelagic zone has been explored less than the surface of Mars, but what we've discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about the limits of life. Alright, now we're getting to the good stuff, the actual creatures living down there. And let me tell you, when you see some of these things, you'll understand why early sailors believed in sea monsters. Let's start with perhaps the most famous resident of the extreme deep, the Mariana snailfish. In 2014, a team of scientists from the University of Aberdeen captured footage of a completely unknown species of fish at a depth of approximately 8,178 meters in the Mariana Trench. This fish, later named Pseudeloperus soiree, or the Mariana snailfish, currently holds the record as the deepest living fish ever discovered. Now, when you picture a fish surviving in the most extreme environment on Earth, you might imagine something armored, tough, maybe with huge teeth and a fierce appearance. The Mariana snailfish is the complete opposite. It looks almost comically fragile, translucent, gelatinous, almost ghost-like, with a tadpole-shaped body and small, almost useless-looking fins. It's usually pink or white, and you can actually see through its skin to its internal organs. But don't let its appearance fool you. This fish is one of the most highly adapted creatures on the planet. So how does it survive? First, let's talk about the pressure problem. Most fish have gas-filled swim bladders that help them control their buoyancy. At the depths where the snailfish lives, any gas-filled space would be instantly compressed into nothing. So the snailfish has completely lost its swim bladder through evolution. Instead, its body is mostly made of water and gelatinous tissue, which is the pressure inside its body equals the pressure outside, so it doesn't get crushed. Its bones are thin and poorly calcified. They're soft and flexible rather than hard and rigid. This might seem like a weakness, but rigid bones would actually be a disadvantage under such extreme pressure. The snailfish has also evolved special proteins and organic molecules called piazolytes that help stabilize its cellular proteins under high pressure. Without these, the pressure would literally denature the proteins in the fish's cells, causing them to unfold and stop working, which would kill the fish instantly. But here's something really interesting. There's actually a limit to how deep fish can live, and the Mariana snailfish might be living right at that boundary. A chemical called trimethylamine unoxide, or TMAO, is crucial for protecting cellular proteins from pressure. The deeper a fish lives, the more TMAO it needs. But there's a maximum concentration of TMAO that can exist in cellular fluid before it becomes toxic. Scientists have calculated that this limit corresponds to a depth of approximately 8,200 to 8,400 meters. The Mariana snailfish lives at 8,178 meters, right at the theoretical maximum depth for fish life. Below this depth, fish simply cannot exist because they can't produce enough TMAO to survive without poisoning themselves. This means we've probably already found the deepest living fish possible on Earth. Now, you might be wondering what this fish eats. Food is extremely scarce at these depths. The snailfish feeds primarily on tiny crustaceans called amphibians, which we'll talk about more in a minute. It has a relatively large mouth and is an ambush predator, sitting motionless on the seafloor waiting for prey to come within striking distance. Its digestive system is highly efficient, extracting every possible calorie from whatever food it manages to catch. Another fascinating fish found in the Mariana Trench is the ethereal snailfish, discovered in 2017 at depths between 6,000 and 8,000 meters. This species is even more transparent than the Mariana snailfish, appearing almost invisible in the water. Researchers believe this transparency might serve as camouflage in an environment where bioluminescence is the only source of light. Being transparent means not reflecting any bioluminescent light that might reveal your position to predators or prey. Then there are the rat-tailed fish, also called grenadiers, which have been found at depths exceeding 7,000 meters in the trench. These fish have large heads and eyes, with bodies that taper to a thin, rat-like tail, hence the name. They're scavengers, feeding on whatever organic material falls to the ocean floor, including dead whales, fish, and marine snow. Some species can grow quite large, over a meter in length, making them some of the biggest predators at these depths. What's remarkable is that these fish have been observed in footage captured by deep-sea landers, and they don't just sit around waiting. They're active swimmers, moving surprisingly quickly despite the extreme pressure. This suggests they have highly efficient metabolisms and muscular systems adapted to function under conditions that would shut down most other organisms. One of the strangest adaptations seen in deep trench fish is their reproductive strategy, because finding a mate in the vast, dark emptiness of the deep ocean is extremely difficult. Some species have evolved what's called protandric hermaphroditism. They're born male and later change to female. Subscribe for more content.